Supreme Court extends mail-in ballot deadline in Pennsylvania and Carolina. The Supreme Court is definitely approaching weighty decisions right now, which makes it a very stunning time to be welcoming a new justice into the mix. 3 decisions were handed down this week that could directly affect next week's presidential election. On Wednesday, the higher court rendered its decisions on whether late ballots would be included in the official tallies. The Supreme Court declined to overturn the decisions that allow Pennsylvania officials to receive ballots cast by Election Day and received within 3 days, and allow North Carolina's election board to set a grace period of 9 days. The Republican Party and Republican Congress members have been against extensions. Donald Trump has also and has continued to speak up against them and mail-in voting. Conservative Justices Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Neil Gorsuch objected to the majority decision. Justice Amy Coney Barrett was just pushed through a confirmation this week. While she has refused to say whether she will recuse herself in election matters that come before the court, her spokeswoman explained the cases this week needed prompt decisions, and she didn't have time to fully review the cases. The third case occurred in Wisconsin. In this case, an extension for ballots to be received was added in Wisconsin. The difference, noted Chief Justice John Roberts, is that the court should be reluctant to approve changes that federal judges set, while those that have been set by state courts or agencies should be allowed. However, despite these cases reaching the Supreme Court, the case in Pennsylvania may not be settled. Thomas, Alito, and Gorsuch indicated they may want to revisit the case. Further, votes received after Election Day may not be counted. The 3 conservative judges wrote a statement that was critical of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's ruling that allows for 3 extra days to receive mail-in ballots because of the crush of extra people voting early because of the coronavirus pandemic. They believe it may be unconstitutional. There is a strong likelihood that the state Supreme Court decision violates the federal Constitution, wrote Alito. The provisions of the federal Constitution conferring on state legislatures, not state courts, the authority to make rules governing federal elections would be meaningless if a state court could override the rules adopted by the legislature simply by claiming that a state constitutional provision gave the courts the authority to make whatever rules it thought appropriate for the conduct of a fair election, he continued. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court's decisions, allowing extra time for mail-in votes, was based on the Free and Equal Elections Clause in the Commonwealth's Constitution. The majority ruled that the provision requested elections to be conducted in a manner which guarantees, to the greatest degree possible, a voter's right to equal participation in the electoral process. It affords courts broad authority to craft meaningful remedies when required. The majority decision did not explain their reasoning, though it does allow that there may be additional statements later. Justice Brett Kavanaugh had earlier voted with the 3 other conservative justices to grant a Republican request stopping Pennsylvania's deadline extension but did not join Alito's statement. The Supreme Court's 4-4 tie decision on October 19 left the state court's ruling at play. Republicans renewed their request to have the U.S. Supreme Court hear it once it was clear Barrett would be confirmed by then. On Wednesday, Trump said in a press conference that he was depending on courts to keep states from including ballots received after Election Day, even if they were postmarked before then. Hopefully, the few states remaining that want to take a lot of time after November 3 to count ballots, that won't be allowed by the various courts, he said. Alito said there was not enough time to review the Pennsylvania court's decisions ahead of the election. Yet, he did note that denying to take up the case now is not a denial of a request for this court to order that ballots received after Election Day be segregated so that if the state Supreme Court's decision is ultimately overturned, a targeted remedy will be available. This led Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro, D., to issue a statement that said the conflict might not be over. He urged voters to not depend on the mail for their votes.